Welcome. Today I'm going to read you a little ghost story. When I was a little girl, we moved house in country, and I was delighted to see that the railway line at the bottom of our new garden. Many were the times my mum asked me to stay off the line and stop climbing the embankment. I was 11 and I didn't listen. It was my love affair with the trains and my mother's attempts to help a little boy that inspired me to write this short story. You may find it moving, you may not, but one thing I learned from my childhood is that in sadness there is always hope. As long as I can hear the trains. When Lorena moved house, she was delighted to find that the trains steamed past the bottom of her garden. In the early 1960s, diesel engines had not yet graced the railway lines. At first, the steam trains were noisy, bellowing thick black smoke out of their funnels. But after a while, Lorena adjusted to them being there. They were a comfort in the night, especially when the foxes screeched, making her jump. Foxes were bound to roam because the houses were surrounded by fields. I don't really mind them there. After all, they have a right to live. But as long as I can hear the trains, I'm not frightened. Anyway, I can climb up the embankment and pick flowers. I couldn't do that if there weren't any trains. Mum says 11-year-old girls shouldn't go trespassing on the railway line. But I'm not on the railway, am I? I'm on the embankment. That's different. Climbing over the garden fence behind her father's garage, Lorena scrambled up the embankment. "Get your coat, Philip. You'll need it if it rains," Gladys Perkins told her son. "Hurry up. I am late for work as it is."
Why can't I stay in the house? I'll be all right, Philip told his mum.
"You know how your dad feels about you staying in when I'm not home."
He's not my dad, the boy protested. He can't tell me what to do.
"You're 11 years old. He can tell you what to do any time he likes. Now go on, get out before he comes home and stay out of trouble." Philip watched his mother marching off to her job as a waitress at Giacomo's Italian restaurant. She'd be gone all day and most of the night, meaning that he would not be fed again until tomorrow. He would be expected to stay away from home until his stepfather left the night shift as a security guard on an industrial estate near Ilkeston. The weather was dry and quite warm, but as so often happens in England, by tonight he could be wet through and shivering. It wouldn't be the first time he wandered round in the cold, especially during the school holidays. As his mother disappeared, Philip headed towards the fields surrounding a private housing estate. At least he'd be somewhere soft. If he felt hungry, he could eat plenty of gooseberries growing in the ruins of what once was a square of 18th century houses. Upon the embankment, Lorena sat among the daisies, making necklaces and bracelets to adorn her neck and wrists. By her side lay a bundle of fragrant blue forget-me-nots. Growing in abundance around the railway line, Lorena always took a bunch home to her mother. Glancing across the embankment, she could see the fields and gooseberries below her. She noticed a boy lying in the grass. "Who's that sitting in my field? Haven't seen him before." Curiosity getting the better of her, Lorena collected the flower jewellery and the forget-me-nots and clambered back down the embankment and over the garden fence. Leaving her precious items on the table in her back garden, Lorena skipped down the drive, crossed the brook running under the railway bridge, and being careful not to avoid any rats that might be swimming there, and into the field. The boy lay on his back, staring at the sky, enjoying the warmth of the sun on his bruised, aching body. "What's your name?" Lorena asked, sitting beside him. Her golden blonde hair fell over her shoulders, glistening brightly in the sunlight.
"Philip, what's yours?"
"I'm called Lorena. I always come here when I'm not at school. It's nice, isn't it?"
"Suppose so."
"If you only suppose so, then you shouldn't be here. This place is for people who love trains." Turning his head to look at the strange girl, Philip said,
"I do like trains, but that's not why I'm here. I come here to get away from my stepdad."
"Doesn't he like you?"
"Not much."
"Why doesn't he like you?" "My dad likes me. At least I think he does."
Dunno. You want some gooseberries? I can get you some."
"I don't like them." "Do you ever go on the embankment? It's great up there. You can see for miles, and there's loads of flowers to pick. I picked forget-me-nots for me mum, and I made some daisy chains. Look," Lorena pointed to her neck. "They're pretty, aren't they?"
"Yeah, they're nice. Do you think my mum might like some flowers?
Of course she will. Come on, I'll show you where they are. After picking the flowers, Philip decided to go home so that he could have them ready for his mother when she came back from the restaurant. He was so excited about giving them to her that he'd forgotten his stepfather would still be there. When he arrived at his house, his stepfather Frank was still sleeping. He tiptoed into the kitchen with the flowers and put them in an empty jar. He was just about to go out again when Frank emerged from the bedroom.
"The hell are these?" he demanded, scowling at the flowers his stepson had placed in a glass jar on the kitchen table. "They're for Mum. I picked them near the railway line. Thought she'd like them. You never buy her flowers. You never buy her anything. You just knock her about. I hate you." "Who do you think you're talking to?" Frank snarled. "I'm the one that keeps a roof over your head, puts food on the table and keeps you clothed. You do well to remember that. Mum works too. Longer hours than you, and it's her money that keeps her food on the table. You drink yours away."
Growling, Frank reached for the leather belt holding up his khaki work trousers. Forgetting his coat, Philip bolted from the house, hearing his stepfather lock the door behind him. Head hanging, he found himself shuffling in the direction of the railway. Where else could he go? His mother was still at work, and his stepfather locked him out. There were no other relatives. The night was cooler now, and the rain was beginning to fall.
"I can shelter under the bridge. I might even see Lorena."
Reaching the iron bridge, Philip waded through the brook and squatted beneath its rusty arches.
"Oh, at least I'm out of the rain. It's getting late. I don't suppose I'll see Lorena tonight. She'll be at home with her mum and dad. Warm and dry."
As the shadows lengthened, the night crept on, growing colder by the minute. The incessant rain bombed the earth between the arches, slamming into the brook. Even the rats weren't out tonight. Hungry and shivering in the damp air, Philip hugged himself tightly and tried to keep warm. Minutes later, the street lights went out, leaving him in complete darkness.
Must have been a power cut.
Huddling against the cold, Philip started thinking about school and how every lunchtime he'd go to the chip shop with the money his mother had given him, then come back here to sit in a field round a fire he'd made from the paper given to him by the householders. He'd gone to one house and knocked on the door asking for paper to burn on the fire, and this particular lady lived in the last house before the bridge. She'd shown him kindness, asking him to come in and keep warm. She even offered to feed him, but he refused. Wouldn't be right to inflict a dirty, neglected child on her. She might catch something nasty. At least that's what the other children at school told him anyway. "Stay away from the dirty beggar." But he wasn't dirty, was he? He sat in the field every day, and when it rained, which was often, the field became muddy. Somewhere in those same dark, wet fields, Philip heard a terrible cry. The foxes were out and about, and judging by the sound, very close.
"Maybe it's not the foxes," he whispered. "It could be anything. Perhaps if I keep really still, they won't see me."
Snuggling close to the wall, Philip sat there holding his breath.
"Whatever you are, please go away."
After 15 minutes, he heard a rumbling sound above him. He recognised the clickety-clack of the train wheels on the rails, a comfort in the night. He remembered Lorena telling him, "I'm perfectly safe as long as I can hear the trains." As the noise faded, Philip fell into a deep sleep. How long he'd lain there he had no way of telling, until the sudden chiming of the church clock striking 9 made him jump.
Oh, well, at least I know what time it is now. If I walk slowly, it'll be gone. Mum should be home by then.
Teeth chattering with cold, Philip struggled to his feet and listened for a second. There was no sound. Whatever had been making that blood-curdling noise must have disappeared. The power had not been restored, and the road was long and dark. He wanted to sprint home, where at least it would be warm.
"Slowly," Philip told himself, resisting the urge to run. "Slowly, otherwise he'll still be there."
Soon he was walking briskly, looking neither left nor right, entering his garden 30 minutes later, just as his stepfather was leaving for the night shift. Ducking to one side, Philip tucked in his chest as the person he hated most in the world marched by. The morning was bright and dry. Lorena pulled on her sandals and headed back out, hoping to find her new friend in the fields. At the bottom of the garden, Lorena jumped excitedly, waving frantically at the passengers on the train as it trunted past. She loved it when the travellers waved back. Dad promised to take me on the train one day. I'll ask him if Philip can come too. Lorena played all day in the field, hoping to see him. She scrambled up the embankment to get a better look. Philip didn't show. Where is he? I have to find him. He's missing the trains. I wish I knew where he lived. For the next 5 days there was no sign of Philip. Every day Lorena went to look for him. Then on Saturday she saw him running down the road. Slipping and sliding down the embankment in a haste to reach him, Lorena fell, grazing her legs and arms. Coming to her feet, she shot out after him under the bridge, over the brook and into the field. "Philip! Philip, wait for me!" Philip halted, turning to face her. Lorena stopped abruptly. Philip's face was covered in angry cuts and bruises. One black eye was swollen shut. "What have you done?" she asked, shocked by the condition of his face.
I was hungry. My stepdad caught me sneaking into the house before 9 p.m. He doesn't let me in until he leaves for work. Mum's at work, so she can't help.
Did he do this to you?
Yes.
You should tell someone. Come home, we'll talk to my mum.
I can't.
You need help, you're bleeding. Mum will sort it for you.
No, Lorena, I can't tell anyone.
Why can't you tell anyone? That's silly.
Because if people find out about him, they'll take me away and I'll never see my mum again.
Does your mum know what he does to you when she's not there?
Yeah, but it's not her fault. It's not her fault. She's frightened of him. He hits her.
It isn't right, Philip. We're going to see my mum right now, Rena told him, tugging him by the arm. Philip reluctantly allowed himself to be dragged across the road and into Lorena's garden.
Is this your house? He asked in wonderment.
Yes, it is. Why?
I've been here before, asking for newspapers to burn on the fire when I'm eating my chips at dinner time. I didn't know it was your home. She's a nice lady, your mum. She offered to let me come in one dinner time. She said I could even eat with her, but I thought I better hadn't. And you get to see and hear the trains all the time. Footsteps. "Come here, you little bastard!" Philip spun around, gasping. "It's my stepdad. He's coming for me. Run, Lorena, or he'll get you too. Run!"
This is my house. He can't get me.
"Yes, he can. And he will. I'm off." Grabbing Lorena's arm, Philip dragged her down the drive.
Behind my dad's garage and up the embankment. He won't catch us there. Scrambling up the embankment, the children failed to see Lorena's mother run from the house after hearing the ruckus outside, or Philip's mother enter the garden. A police siren wailed and heavy footsteps pumped the pavement.
"Where do we go now?" Philip asked, reaching the top of the embankment.
"Follow me. I know where we can hide." Lorena led her new friend along the railway track until they reached a grassy knoll just off the line. "In here. We'll be safe here. It's my hideout."
"What if he finds us? He'll kill us."
"Shh! Listen. I can hear the trains. We're going to be all right," Lena assured him as she ducked out of the hideaway.
"No, Lorena, don't! You'll be killed!"
Jumping out after her, Philip leapt backwards as the iron monster shot past, narrowly missing him. He waited until the last carriage had gone by, then stepped across the line. Lorena was nowhere to be seen. Tears streaming down his face, his own fears forgotten, Philip flew up and down the line searching for her, calling her name until he was hoarse. A pair of arms encircled him from behind.
"Get off! Get off me!"
"Philip, I'm here. It's all right," Gladys told her son soothingly. "Everything is going to be all right. Your stepfather has been arrested. He can't hurt us any more. Our neighbour saw him beating you and reported it to the police and then called me at work. I came as quickly as I could. I'm so sorry for all he's done to you." Gladys tried to hug him, but he pulled her away from her.
"It's not all right. Lorena's not here. The train took her away."
With the help of a young constable, Gladys helped her terrified son down the embankment into Lorena's garden, where her mother Ida waited for them, tears stinging her eyes. "Hello again," she said, taking Philip's hand. "I do remember you. You should have come inside out of the cold. It would have been far better than sitting in that wet field. You would have been very welcome. I've been speaking to your mum, and from now on, when you go back to school after the holidays, you'll come and have lunch with me. I'd like that."
"Is Lorena here?" Philip asked, hardly daring to breathe.
Ida took the frightened boy into her arms. There was an accident on the railway line. A little girl picking flowers between the tracks. The train couldn't stop in time. Philip, Lorena died 5 years ago. Stunned, Philip glanced at the garden table. In the centre lay a bunch of fragrant blue forget-me-nots. Lucia Keates, 2020.